Hey guys, tonight, we're going to gently drift back in time, easing ourselves into the quiet, bustling, often surprisingly full lives of women in medieval times. Imagine yourself waking not to the gentle hum of modern appliances, but to the distant crow of a rooster, the smell of wood smoke, and the tangible chill of a stone cottage. You're stepping into a world where a woman's day began long before dawn, a ceaseless rhythm dictated by the demands of survival and family. You might feel the rough texture of homespun linen or the cool weight of a water bucket. You probably won't survive this journey awake, and that's perfectly fine. We're here for the gentle unwinding of history. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're feeling up to it, let us know your location and local time in the comments below. It's always fascinating to know where these sleepy history lessons reach. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself immersed in the relentless grind of daily domestic drudgery that filled a medieval woman's day. For the vast majority of women, life revolved around the hearth and home. But this was no simple matter of pushing buttons on a machine. This was physically demanding ceaseless labor from sunup to sundown, often long after the sun had set. Imagine the ache in your back from bending over a smoky fire, the sting in your eyes from constant cooking, or the rough skin on your hands from endless chores. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval women, regardless of social class, were primarily responsible for the running of the household. This wasn't just cooking and cleaning as we know it. It encompassed everything from fetching water from the well or stream, often a considerable distance, gathering firewood, preparing and preserving all food, which meant grinding grain, butchering animals, churning butter, baking bread, brewing ale or cider making, and mending all clothing, from spinning wool or flax into thread-weaving fabric, to cutting and sewing garments and caring for children. It was a 24/7 job year-round with no holidays or sick days. A quirky tidbit that might make you grateful for modern plumbing sanitation was, shall we say, a work in progress. Women were often responsible for managing household waste, which in a time before sophisticated sewage systems meant a lot of carrying, burying, or disposing of human and animal waste. Imagine the daily task of emptying chamber pots, often just tossing the contents out a window or into a ditch. Historians still argue whether the extreme domestic workload of medieval women limited their societal influence, or conversely gave them an indispensable, albeit often unacknowledged, power base within the family and local community. Was it pure drudgery or a foundation of power? Consider the sheer ingenuity required. You didn't just buy flour, you processed it. You didn't buy clothes, you made them from scratch. This meant mastering a dizzying array of skills, understanding which herbs could cure an ailment, knowing how to smoke meat, to prevent spoilage, being adept at spinning a sturdy thread, or understanding the perfect temperature for baking bread in a clay oven. Your life and the lives of your family depended on these skills. It's like being a master chef, tailor, doctor, and engineer all rolled into one, but without any formal training, just endless practice and inherited knowledge. Even seemingly simple tasks were monumental. Laundry, for instance, involved heating large cauldrons of water over an open fire, scrubbing heavy woolens by hand, and often laying them out in the sun or hanging them to dry. And remember, no tumble dryers. This wasn't just a chore. It was a physical workout that would make a modern gym goer weep. The sounds of daily life would be filled with the rhythmic thud of a pestle in a mortar, the splash of water from a wooden bucket, and the soft hum of a spinning wheel. So as you hear the faint, repetitive sounds of medieval household tasks, let the sheer scale of the daily domestic drudgery wash over you. It's a testament to the incredible resilience and indispensable contribution of women to medieval society, a quiet, ceaseless labor that formed the very bedrock of everyday existence. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, you can be thankful for those washing machines and grocery stores. Beyond the hearth and home, the medieval woman's day often extended into the very landscape of survival, connecting her intimately with field and farm labor. You're now sensing the rhythmic pulse of agricultural life, the feel of rich earth beneath your bare feet, the scent of fresh-cut hay, and the distant lowing of cattle. For the vast majority of medieval women, life was inextricably linked to the land, their hands often as calloused, from wielding a hoe as from churning butter. This wasn't merely assisting. It was fundamental bone-deep work that fueled the entire society. A mainstream historical fact is that peasant women were absolutely indispensable to the medieval agricultural economy. They participated in virtually every aspect of farming, from planting and weeding to harvesting and threshing. While men often performed the heaviest tasks, like plowing, women were crucial for lighter field work, tending to livestock, milking cows, feeding pigs, tending chickens, managing kitchen gardens for supplementary food, and processing agricultural products. You might see a woman stooping low in a field, meticulously pulling weeds or expertly milking a cow in a humble byre. A quirky tidbit that highlights their ingenuity during harvest season, when every pair of hands was critical. Even pregnant women or those with infants would often work in the fields, sometimes with their babies swaddled and laid safely at the edge of the field. Imagine the sheer determination of a woman harvesting grain with a sickle, pausing only to tend to her crying infant before resuming her tireless work. Historians still argue whether the physical demands of medieval farm labor meant women were viewed primarily as beasts of burden, or if their indispensable contribution to family survival afforded them a unique, if unacknowledged, form of authority within the household and on the land. Was it exploitation or empowerment? Consider the rhythm of the seasons dictating their toil. In spring, you'd be sowing seeds, carefully ensuring the future harvest. Summer brought weeding under a hot sun, perhaps scything hay for winter feed, the air thick with the buzzing of insects. Autumn was a frenzy of activity, harvesting grain, gathering fruit, perhaps helping with the grape crush for wine or cider. Winter meant husking corn, tending to animals in cold barns, and mending tools. Your hands would always be busy, always connected to the raw materials of life. It's like living in a constant low-stakes game show where the prize is simply survival and you're always just one bad harvest away from losing. Beyond the main crops, women were typically responsible for the small yet vital plots of kitchen garden. Here they grew herbs for medicine and cooking vegetables that supplemented the family diet, and often flax for linen. This garden was a woman's domain, a miniature ecosystem tended with expert knowledge passed down through generations. You might catch the scent of mint or thyme growing alongside cabbage and onions, all cultivated by diligent hands. So as you feel the phantom ache of laboring under the sun or the chill of a winter barn, let the enduring strength and vital contributions of women in field and farm labor wash over you. Their quiet, ceaseless efforts formed the very bedrock of medieval society, feeding families and fueling communities, often without recognition. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the remarkable resilience of those who worked the earth day in and day out. Leaving the open fields and the endless rhythm of farm labor, you now find yourself amidst the bustling energy of medieval urban life, witnessing townswomen's bustling trades. Imagine the narrow, winding streets of a medieval town, alive with the chatter of merchants, the clang of hammers, and the rich scents of spices, leather, and freshly baked goods. Here, women weren't confined to the domestic sphere or the fields. They were active, vital participants in the vibrant tapestry of commerce and craft, often contributing directly to the family income or even running their own enterprises. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval towns offered women more diverse economic opportunities than rural areas. Women worked in a wide variety of trades, often alongside their husbands or independently. They were brewers, bakers, innkeepers, cheesemongers, fishwives, textile workers, spinners, weavers, dyers, embroiderers, midwives, and shopkeepers. Many guilds, while primarily male-dominated, sometimes admitted women, especially as widows, continuing their husband's trade, or for specific crafts, like silk weaving, which were predominantly female. You might see a woman behind a stall in the market expertly haggling over the price of a chicken or tending a bubbling cauldron of ale in a busy alehouse. A quirky tidbit that demonstrates their entrepreneurial spirit. It was very common for women to be brewers of ale, so much so that the iconic image of a witch with a pointy hat and a cauldron actually has roots in the image of medieval alewives who brewed at home and would mark their establishments with a tall pole topped with a broomstick or a bunch of leaves. Imagine a woman, perhaps with a mischievous glint in her eye, stirring a massive vat of ale, her face flushed from the heat, the scent of hops filling the air. Historians still argue whether the economic independence gained by some townswomen translated into greater social power and autonomy, or if it remained largely circumscribed by patriarchal legal and social structures. Was it a path to freedom, or merely a different form of labor? Consider the sensory experience of walking through a medieval market. You'd hear the confident call of a fishwife hawking her fresh catch, the rhythmic thud of a weaver's loom from an open workshop, or the cheerful clatter from an inn run by a robust innkeeper. Women were visible and active participants, their work essential to the daily functioning of the town. They might manage complex financial transactions, oversee apprentices, and navigate the intricacies of supply and demand, all while maintaining their household duties. It's like running a small business, a household, and a social network, all simultaneously, and all without the benefit of a smartphone or even a calculator. Beyond the well-known trades, women also performed crucial, often undervalued services. Midwives, for example, held immense importance in every community possessing knowledge of herbal remedies and childbirth practices. They were literally holding lives in their hands. Other women might be involved in selling goods from their kitchen gardens, providing prepared meals or mending clothes for others. Their economic contributions were not just supplementary. They were frequently the backbone of the family's survival and prosperity. So as you hear the vibrant murmur of medieval commerce, let the bustling energy and diverse contributions of townswomen's bustling trades wash over you. Their resilience, ingenuity, and sheer industriousness were integral to the economic vitality of medieval towns, often opening pathways and wielding influence in ways that extended far beyond the domestic sphere. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the vibrant tapestry of work woven by these industrious women. Leaving the bustling streets of the medieval town, you now ascend to a different sphere of influence, stepping into the grand, often imposing world of the noblewoman's grand estate. Imagine the vast courtyards, the towering stone walls, the rustle of rich fabrics, and the distant clatter from bustling kitchens and stables. Here, a woman's role was far removed from manual labor, but no less demanding. It shifted from physical drudgery to complex administration, social maneuvering, and the weighty responsibility of managing an entire self-sufficient world. A mainstream historical fact is that noblewomen, particularly the lady of the manor, held significant administrative and managerial power within their households and estates. While their husbands were often away fighting wars, attending court, or engaged in political affairs, it was the noblewoman who was responsible for the daily running of the vast household. This included overseeing servants, a veritable army of cooks, cleaners, laundresses, stable hands, and squires managing the estate's finances, supervising agricultural output, storing provisions, organizing feasts, and even handling legal disputes among tenants. It was, in essence, running a small, complex kingdom. You might see a noblewoman, perhaps adorned in a rich indigo gown, seated at a heavy wooden table meticulously reviewing ledgers or issuing instructions to a bewildered steward. A quirky tidbit that reveals their surprising practical skills. Many noblewomen were also highly skilled in medicine and herbal remedies, often acting as the primary healers for their household and even the surrounding village. Imagine a stern but compassionate lady of the manor, carefully mixing an herbal poultice for a sick servant, her knowledge of plants as vital as her knowledge of accounts. Historians still argue whether the extensive power and responsibility wielded by noblewomen in managing estates translated into genuine personal autonomy and influence, or if their authority remained fundamentally derivative, dependent on their male relatives. Was it real power or a gilded cage? Consider the sheer scale of the operation. A grand estate was not just a home, it was a sprawling economic unit. The noblewoman had to ensure there was enough food for everyone from her immediate family to dozens of servants and sometimes hundreds of tenants. This meant understanding crop yields, animal husbandry, and trade networks. She would decide what to plant, what to sell, and what to keep. She was the chief procurement officer, human resources manager, and quality control inspector all rolled into one. It's like running a multi-million-dollar corporation without the benefit of email phones, or even a basic calculator, relying instead on memory, meticulously kept handwritten records, and sheer force of personality. Beyond the practicalities, noblewomen also played crucial social and cultural roles. They hosted guests, organized entertainment, and fostered courtly culture, often commissioning music, poetry, and art. They were expected to be models of piety and grace, setting the moral tone for the entire household. Their influence extended beyond the walls of the castle as their decisions impacted the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of people who lived and worked on their lands. So as you hear the distant sounds of a busy medieval estate, let the immense responsibilities and quiet authority of the noblewoman's grand estate wash over you. Their strategic minds and tireless efforts kept the wheels of medieval society turning, often behind the scenes, yet with undeniable impact. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the remarkable, multifaceted contributions of these powerful women. From the sprawling estates of noblewomen, you now transition to a quieter yet profoundly influential sphere, where medieval women carved out unique lives, the convent's quiet power. Imagine the hushed cloisters, the scent of incense and beeswax, and the rhythmic chant of Latin prayers echoing through ancient stone corridors. Here, behind thick walls, women found a different kind of authority and opportunity, a life of intellectual pursuit, spiritual devotion, and often significant administrative autonomy, a stark contrast to the roles dictated by marriage and family outside. A mainstream historical fact is that convents offered medieval women an alternative path to traditional marriage and domesticity. For women who chose, or whose families chose for them, a religious life, convents provided a structured environment for spiritual contemplation, education, and sometimes even leadership. Abbesses, the heads of convents, could wield considerable power, managing large estates, overseeing numerous tenants, corresponding with powerful secular and ecclesiastical figures, and even advising kings and queens. These were formidable women who managed complex institutions. A quirky tidbit that highlights their influence: some convents became renowned centers of learning and artistic production. Imagine nuns, perhaps, with ink-stained fingers, meticulously copying and illuminating manuscripts, or even composing their own treatises on theology, medicine, or music. Hildegard of Bingen, a 12th century abbess, is a famous example. A visionary who composed music, wrote theological works, and even advised popes and emperors. Historians still argue whether the convent offered genuine liberation and intellectual freedom for medieval women, or if it merely transferred them from patriarchal control of fathers and husbands to that of the church. Was it a sanctuary, or a gilded cage with a different lock? Consider the sensory experience of convent life. You'd hear the gentle rustle of habits, the soft turning of parchment pages in the scriptorium, the melodic singing during daily offices, and the quiet footsteps along cloistered walkways. Life was disciplined, but within that discipline often lay profound intellectual and spiritual freedom. For women who might otherwise have been confined to domestic duties or arduous labor, the convent offered an escape into a world of books, contemplation, and scholarly discourse. It was a place where their minds, not just their bodies, could be cultivated. It's like finding a quiet, well-stocked library in the middle of a bustling, noisy city where you're finally allowed to read all day. Beyond spiritual devotion, convents were often economically self-sufficient and politically significant. They owned land-managed resources and engaged in trade. The abbess had to be a shrewd businesswoman and a capable administrator, often dealing with complex legal matters, land disputes, and financial investments. Her authority was real, and she commanded respect not just within the convent walls, but often throughout the surrounding region. So as you hear the gentle cadence of prayers and the subtle sounds of medieval scholarship, let the unique opportunities and quiet strength of the convent's quiet power wash over you. For many women, it was a path to influence education and a deeply meaningful life, often offering a surprising degree of autonomy in a world that otherwise offered few alternatives. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the profound choices and contributions of these often overlooked figures. Moving from the structured autonomy of the convent, you now delve into the broader framework that governed medieval women's lives, legal rights, limited power. Imagine a heavy parchment scroll covered in dense Latin text, detailing laws and customs that, while sometimes offering surprising protections, often placed women in a subordinate position to men. You're sensing the complex, often contradictory legal landscape that shaped their choices, their property, and their very identity. A mainstream historical fact is that medieval law was largely patriarchal, meaning it favored male authority. Women generally had fewer legal rights than men, particularly married women whose legal identity was often subsumed into that of their husband, a concept known as femme couverte in English common law. This meant a married woman typically could not own property, independently make contracts, or sue in court without her husband's consent or involvement. Her property often became his upon marriage. However, single women, spinsters, and widows generally had more legal autonomy, able to own property, conduct business, and represent themselves in court. A quirky tidbit that reveals the nuances: while a wife couldn't sue without her husband, she could sometimes defend herself against her husband if he committed certain severe offenses like attempting to murder her. Imagine a medieval wife against all odds standing before a local court, arguing her case with quiet determination, a testament to the rare but existing avenues for legal recourse. Historians still argue whether the legal limitations placed on medieval women reflected an inherent belief in their inferiority, or were primarily designed to maintain social order and property lines within a male-dominated inheritance system. Was it sexism or social structure? Consider the practical implications of these laws. If you were a daughter, your marriage might be arranged to secure land or alliances for your family with little input from you. If you were a wife, your economic activities might be subject to your husband's approval, even if you were the one actually running the family business in town. Your voice in official matters could be muted, legally speaking. It's like playing a game where some players have built-in handicaps, and navigating the rules requires immense cleverness and resilience. However, the legal landscape was not uniformly restrictive. Different regions and social classes had varying customs. For example, in some parts of continental Europe, women had more extensive property rights than in England. Furthermore, women could exercise influence informally. A noblewoman, as we discussed, might wield immense practical power over an estate even if her legal standing was theoretically limited. A peasant woman's crucial role in daily survival gave her indispensable status within the household, even if not recognized by formal law. The concept of dower also provided some security for widows. This was a portion of her deceased husband's property, typically 1/3, that she was legally entitled to for her lifetime, ensuring she had some financial independence after his death. This was a significant right that offered a degree of protection against destitution. So as you feel the subtle weight of historical legal frameworks, let the complex reality of legal rights' limited power for medieval women wash over you. Their lives were often constrained by the letter of the law, yet they continually found ways to exert influence, maintain agency, and contribute indispensably to their society. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the resilience required to navigate such an intricate legal world. From the intricate web of legal rights, your journey now takes you to the very core of medieval life and its profoundest risks, childbirth's perilous dance. Imagine a small, dimly lit room, perhaps filled with the scent of herbs and the hushed whispers of women. You're sensing the raw vulnerability and immense courage of medieval mothers facing a life-altering, often life-threatening event that was central to their identity and society's continuation. The sounds might be quiet, strained breaths or the soft encouragement of a midwife, all punctuated by the sheer, unvarnished reality of new life entering a challenging world. A mainstream historical fact is that childbirth in the medieval period carried extremely high risks for both mother and child. Maternal mortality rates were significantly higher than today, with infections, hemorrhage, and complications from prolonged labor being common causes of death. Infant mortality was also tragically high. This reality shaped everything from family size to inheritance practices and infused the act of giving birth with profound spiritual and practical significance. Every successful birth was seen as a miracle, a testament to divine grace as much as human endurance. A quirky tidbit that highlights the blend of practicality and superstition: medieval women would often wear protective amulets or invoke specific saints during childbirth, seeking spiritual aid alongside the practical assistance of a midwife. Imagine a woman grimacing in pain, tightly clutching a small worn relic or a prayer bead, hoping for a safe delivery in a world where medical interventions were extremely limited. Historians still argue whether the high maternal mortality rates contributed to the perceived fragility and vulnerability of women in medieval society, or if the act of surviving childbirth conferred immense respect and status upon mothers. Was it a weakness or a source of strength? Consider the sheer physical and emotional toll. There were no pain medications, no sterile environments, and little understanding of germ theory. Childbirth was almost exclusively attended by women, experienced midwives, female relatives, and neighbors. This created a powerful, supportive network of women bound together by shared experience and vital knowledge passed down through generations. You might hear the calm, reassuring voice of a midwife, her hands deftly guiding the process, her knowledge honed by years of assisting births. It's like navigating a treacherous mountain pass, without a map, relying entirely on the wisdom of those who have gone before you. The societal importance of motherhood cannot be overstated. In a time of high mortality, having children, especially sons, to inherit land or titles, was paramount for family continuity and social standing. For noble women, producing an heir was a fundamental duty, ensuring the lineage and stability of the estate. For peasant women, more children meant more hands for labor, crucial for the family's survival and prosperity. This immense pressure to bear children added another layer of weight to the already perilous act of childbirth. So as you feel the quiet intensity of that medieval birthing room, Let the immense courage and the stark realities of childbirth's perilous dance wash over you. It was a moment of profound vulnerability, yet also a testament to the enduring strength and resilience of medieval women, whose willingness to face such risks ensured the very continuation of their world. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the timeless strength of motherhood. Emerging from the intense, life-altering experience of childbirth, your attention now shifts to the pervasive social institution that defined most medieval women's lives: marriage, alliance, and duty. Imagine a grand hall, perhaps dimly lit by flickering torches, where two families stand not necessarily with hearts full of romance, but with an air of strategic negotiation. You're sensing the profound practicality of medieval matrimony, where personal affection, while hoped for, often took a back seat to economic gain, social standing, and political advantage. The quiet clinking of goblets might mark the sealing of a deal far more complex than just two people uniting. A mainstream historical fact is that for most of medieval society, marriage was primarily an economic and social contract, not a love match. For the nobility, marriages were critical tools for forging alliances, consolidating land, and securing peace between powerful families. For peasants, marriage was essential for economic survival, combining labor and resources to work a farm or run a small trade. While the church increasingly emphasized consent and sacraments, practical considerations almost always took precedence. You might see a young woman, perhaps with a resigned expression, being presented to a future husband. She barely knows her dowry, a more significant focus than her feelings. A quirky tidbit that highlights the pragmatic nature of these unions. It was not uncommon for medieval marriages to be arranged when one or both parties were still children, sometimes even infants, though consummation would only occur much later. Imagine two powerful families agreeing to unite their newborns in matrimony decades before they would ever share a home, a testament to the long-term planning involved. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of arranged marriages stifled individual happiness and autonomy, or if it provided a stable framework for social order and economic security in a volatile world. Was it oppressive or pragmatic? Consider the immense pressure to fulfill one's duty within this system. For a woman, a good marriage could elevate her social standing, secure her family's future, or even bring peace to warring factions. A bad marriage, however, could lead to destitution, social ostracism, or even violence. Your role within this alliance was clear: to manage the household, bear children, especially male heirs, as we discussed with childbirth's perils, and contribute to the family's economic well-being. It's like being a strategic piece on a very large, very serious chessboard, where your moves are often dictated by the grander game being played. The concept of love in marriage, as we understand it today, was a much later development. While affection could certainly grow between spouses, it was not the primary basis for the union. Chastity before marriage and fidelity within it were highly valued, but the core function remained rooted in property, lineage, and social obligation. The dowry, the property or money a bride brought to her marriage, was a critical component, often negotiated as meticulously as a modern business deal. So as you feel the quiet weight of strategic planning that pervaded medieval unions, let the profound reality of marriage, alliance, and duty wash over you. It was a societal cornerstone defining women's lives, structuring communities, and ensuring continuity across generations, all driven by a logic far removed from modern romance. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, reflect on the enduring complexities of human connection and societal structure. Shifting from the binding contracts of marriage, your focus now turns to another critical aspect of medieval women's lives: education's uneven paths. Imagine a dusty, sunlit corner of a noblewoman's chamber, where a young girl might be carefully copying letters, or conversely, a peasant girl learning only through the practical rhythms of farm work. You're sensing the vast disparities in learning opportunities shaped profoundly by social class geography and individual circumstances, yet always present in some form. The quiet scratch of a quill on parchment might be heard in one place, while the rhythmic thud of a loom signifies learning in another. A mainstream historical fact is that formal education for women in the Middle Ages was far less common and accessible than for men, particularly for girls from peasant families. However, it was by no means non-existent. Noble women were often educated in household management basic literacy to read devotional texts or manage accounts, and sometimes even Latin or French, particularly if they were destined for courtly life or managing vast estates. Convents, as we touched upon earlier, were vital centers of learning for nuns, offering comprehensive education in Latin theology, music, and the arts of manuscript production. A quirky tidbit that reveals the hidden avenues of learning: some women, particularly in urban areas, learned to read and write through their involvement in trades or guilds. Imagine a merchant's daughter, perhaps secretly learning to calculate sums and read invoices by watching her father or mother conduct business, her informal education just as practical as any formal schooling. Historians still argue whether the limited formal education for women reflected a societal devaluation of female intellect, or if it was simply a practical consequence of a societal structure where their primary roles were seen as domestic and familial. Was it suppression or prioritization? Consider the sheer variety. For the vast majority of peasant girls, education was primarily practical and oral, passed down from mother to daughter through daily tasks. You would learn how to milk a cow, bake bread, spin wool, identify edible plants, and manage a household through observation and hands-on participation from a very young age. This was vital knowledge for survival and education in living. It's like a never-ending apprenticeship where your classroom is the farm, the kitchen, and the fields, and your teachers are your elders teaching you the hard-won wisdom of generations. For daughters of the burgeoning merchant class, especially in later medieval times, basic literacy and numeracy became increasingly valuable for managing family businesses. They might learn to read basic documents, keep simple accounts, and write letters. This education was often provided by private tutors or even by their parents within the home. Even for noble women, while their education was often more refined, it was always practical. They learned to run a large household, understand protocols, and potentially manage a complex estate if their husband was absent or deceased. Their education might include history, music, and perhaps basic medicine, making them invaluable assets to their families and communities. The goal was to produce a capable lady, not necessarily a scholar for scholarship's sake. So as you feel the quiet dedication of learning in varied forms, let the diverse realities of education's uneven paths wash over you. While formal schooling was a privilege, medieval women found ways to acquire essential knowledge and skills, adapting to their circumstances and often exceeding societal expectations. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the timeless human drive to learn and grow regardless of the historical moment. From the varying landscapes of medieval education, you now transition to a sphere where women's knowledge and practical skills were literally life-saving, healing hands, medical roles. Imagine a humble cottage, perhaps with herbs drying from the rafters and the comforting scent of a warm poultice. You're sensing the quiet, often unacknowledged expertise of women who served as the primary caregivers and healers for their families and communities, operating within a medical system far removed from modern hospitals and pharmacies. The soft murmur of a comforting voice or the gentle touch of a soothing hand would be common sounds. A mainstream historical fact is that women were the primary practitioners of medicine and healing in medieval society, particularly at the local community level. This folk medicine often involved extensive knowledge of herbal remedies, midwifery, as we've touched upon, setting bones, dressing wounds, and caring for the sick and elderly. This practical medical knowledge was passed down through generations of women, often within families, or through informal apprenticeships. While formally trained male physicians existed, they were few, expensive, and largely concentrated in urban centers, making women the first and often only line of medical defense for most people. A quirky tidbit that demonstrates their ingenuity and resourcefulness. Medieval women often cultivated their own physic gardens, specifically for medicinal herbs, creating a personal pharmacy at their doorstep. Imagine a woman carefully tending to rows of chamomile feverfew and calendula, knowing exactly how to dry them, steep them, or crush them into effective remedies. Historians still argue whether the dominance of women in informal healing practices reflected a genuine acceptance of their medical expertise, or if it was simply a societal necessity driven by the limited access to formally trained male physicians. Was it respect for skill or a filling of a void? Consider the sheer breadth of their knowledge. They understood which plants could reduce fever, soothe pain, aid digestion, or staunch bleeding. They knew how to prepare salves for skin ailments, concoct teas for internal complaints, and even perform minor surgical procedures like lancing boils or extracting teeth, though perhaps not with the most pleasant bedside manner or pain relief for that matter. Their diagnostic skills were based on keen observation, noting changes in skin color, breathing patterns, or the nature of a cough. It's like being a walking, breathing organic pharmacy and urgent care clinic all rolled into one and often available 24/7. Beyond physical ailments, these women also provided emotional support and comfort, particularly during illness and death. They were present at the beginning of life, assisting with childbirth, and at its end, preparing bodies for burial and offering solace to the grieving. Their role was holistic, addressing not just the physical body, but the spiritual and emotional needs of the community. Their compassion was as vital as their medical skill. So as you feel the quiet comfort of a healing touch, let the profound contributions of healing hands' medical roles wash over you. The women who practiced these arts were indispensable pillars of medieval communities, often unsung heroes, whose knowledge and care directly impacted survival and well-being. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the timeless dedication of those who tend to the sick and suffering, a legacy stretching back through the ages. Stepping from the practical realm of medieval healing, your journey now leads you into the powerful, pervasive influence of Church's guiding hand. Imagine the towering stone arches of a grand cathedral, echoing with solemn chants, or the quiet intimacy of a village chapel where daily prayers were offered. You're sensing the profound spiritual and moral framework that shaped every aspect of medieval life, and within it, how women's roles were both prescribed and at times unexpectedly empowered by the doctrines and institutions of the Church. A mainstream historical fact is that the Catholic Church was the dominant institution in medieval Europe, influencing law, politics, education, culture, and daily life. It set moral standards, dictated important life events, baptism, marriage, burial, and provided a spiritual explanation for the world. For women, the Church prescribed roles primarily as wives, mothers, and virgins, emphasizing piety, obedience, and modesty as virtues. Religious devotion was central to their identity, and participation in church rituals, from attending Mass to venerating saints, was a fundamental part of life. A quirky tidbit that reveals women's active engagement: medieval churches, particularly during festivals, would often become vibrant social hubs where women exchanged news, arranged informal markets for their goods, and even gossiped. Imagine a group of women, their heads modestly covered, kneeling during a sermon, but then whispering animatedly to each other outside, exchanging recipes or discussing a recent birth. Historians still argue whether the Church's emphasis on female piety and domesticity primarily served to control women and limit their public roles, or if it also offered them spiritual agency, a distinct path to holiness, and a sense of community beyond the immediate family. Was it a cage or a spiritual path? Consider the immense spiritual opportunities the Church offered. For women, becoming a saint, a venerated figure who performed miracles and served as an intercessor with God, was a path to immense influence and posthumous power. Many female saints, like Saint Catherine of Siena or Saint Bridget of Sweden, were powerful mystics and advisors to popes and kings. This offered a unique form of authority beyond conventional societal structures. It's like being given a direct line to the highest authority, bypassing all the usual bureaucratic red tape, simply by being extraordinarily devout. Beyond sainthood, as we touched upon with convents, the religious life offered intellectual and administrative leadership roles that were unavailable to most women in secular society. Even for ordinary women, charitable work, managing confraternities, religious brotherhoods or sisterhoods, or participating in local religious dramas offered opportunities for community engagement and a sense of purpose. The Church, while patriarchal in structure, recognized and often encouraged women's spiritual energy and practical contributions to religious life. So as you feel the quiet reverence and pervasive influence of medieval faith, let the complex relationship with the Church's guiding hand wash over you. While it set boundaries, it also provided profound spiritual meaning pathways to influence and a sense of belonging for women across all social strata. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the enduring power of faith and community throughout history. From the profound spiritual architecture of the Church, you now step into a less explored, yet equally vibrant dimension of medieval women's contributions. Artistic expressions flourish. Imagine the soft glow of natural light illuminating intricate patterns, the gentle hum of a song being hummed, or the delicate scent of paint and parchment. You're sensing the quiet creativity and skillful craftsmanship of women who, despite societal constraints, found ways to express themselves and enrich the cultural tapestry of their era, often leaving behind a beautiful, subtle legacy. A mainstream historical fact is that while many prominent medieval artists whose names survive were men-women, made significant, often anonymous contributions to various art forms. This included textile arts, like weaving embroidery and tapestry, making manuscript illumination, especially in convents, as we've seen, and even performing arts like music and storytelling. Noble women commissioned works and supported artists, while women in various guilds participated in the production of luxury goods. Their work was essential for both practical use and aesthetic beauty. A quirky tidbit that brings their artistry to life: some medieval women, particularly noble women or those in convents, were highly skilled embroiderers, creating elaborate tapestries and vestments that depicted religious scenes or historical events. Imagine a group of women, their needles flashing in the sunlight, meticulously stitching intricate designs onto a large piece of fabric, each thread a testament to their patience and artistic vision. Historians still argue whether the anonymity of many female artists in the Middle Ages was due to a lack of recognition, or if it was simply typical for artisans of the period, regardless of gender, who often worked collaboratively in workshops. Was it historical oversight or common practice? Consider the sheer variety of their creative output. In a domestic setting, a woman might spin wool and then weave it into complex patterns for clothing or household linens, transforming raw materials into items of beauty and utility. Her embroidery skills could adorn her family's garments, making them distinctive. In convents, nuns dedicated countless hours to the painstaking art of manuscript illumination, adding vibrant colors and delicate gold leaf to sacred texts, often developing their own unique artistic styles. It's like being a hidden master artisan, creating beauty that will be admired for centuries, even if your name is never known. Music was another realm where women flourished. While formal musical composition was largely male-dominated, women sang in choirs, especially in convents, performed as minstrels, and played instruments, often providing entertainment for their households or communities. Their voices, whether in solemn chant or lively folk songs, added a rich layer to the soundscape of medieval life. You might hear the sweet, clear notes of a woman's voice singing a devotional hymn or a popular ballad filling the quiet space. So as you feel the subtle beauty of a medieval tapestry or the imagined melody of an ancient song, let the quiet strength and enduring talent of artistic expressions flourish, wash over you. Medieval women, despite the limitations of their time, left an indelible mark on the cultural landscape. Their creativity, a testament to the universal human impulse to create beauty and meaning. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the rich, often hidden artistry of the past. Moving from the vibrant yet often unseen world of artistic creation, your journey now shifts to a path less chosen, often fraught with unique difficulties, unmarried life's challenges. Imagine a solitary figure navigating a bustling medieval community. Perhaps a woman who has not taken religious vows, yet remains unattached by the bonds of marriage. You're sensing the social pressures, economic vulnerabilities, and sometimes the surprising freedoms that came with choosing, or simply finding oneself in, a life outside the conventional marital framework. The quiet hum of societal expectation would be a constant, subtle pressure. A mainstream historical fact is that while marriage was the expected norm for most medieval women, not all women married. Reasons varied. Some might not have found a suitable match. Others might have chosen celibacy for spiritual reasons, though not in a formal religious order. And some simply outlived their potential suitors, or were widowed and chose not to remarry. Unmarried women, spinsters, and widows, as we touched on briefly with legal rights, generally retained more legal autonomy over their property and earnings than married women. However, they also lacked the economic and social protection that marriage typically afforded. A quirky tidbit that reveals a rare path: some unmarried women might have served as professional companions or ladies-in-waiting in noble households, offering companionship and service in exchange for room and board and a degree of social standing. Imagine a woman, perhaps with a sharp wit and keen observational skills, navigating the intricate social hierarchy of a court, valued for her intellect and companionship rather than her marital status. Historians still argue whether the increased legal autonomy of unmarried women was a genuine advantage, or if it was largely outweighed by the social stigma and economic precariousness associated with being outside the traditional family unit. Was it freedom or isolation? Consider the societal pressures. In a world where women's roles were so heavily defined by marriage and motherhood, remaining unmarried could carry a degree of social stigma, sometimes leading to accusations of witchcraft or moral laxity, especially for older women. You might feel the quiet, judging glances from neighbors wondering why you hadn't settled down, or if there was something wrong with you. It's like being the only person at a party who isn't dancing constantly, feeling the subtle weight of unspoken questions. Economically, unmarried women faced significant challenges. They often had to support themselves, entirely relying on inherited property, their skills in a trade, as we saw with townswomen or working as servants. Without the combined resources of a marital household, life could be hard. However, it also meant they had full control over their earnings and property, a freedom denied to their married counterparts. This could lead to a degree of financial independence that was rare for women of the period. Despite these challenges, some unmarried women found genuine independence and purpose. They might become respected figures in their communities, perhaps as healers. Remember those healing hands, teachers or craftswomen, their contributions valued for their skills rather than their marital status. The choices, though limited, were sometimes deliberately made to pursue a life of self-sufficiency. So as you feel the quiet hum of individual choice against societal norms, let the nuanced realities of unmarried life's challenges wash over you. It was a path less trodden, often demanding great resilience and ingenuity, yet it also offered some medieval women a unique, if sometimes lonely, form of autonomy. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the strength it takes to forge your own path, even in the most restrictive of times. From the quiet resilience of unmarried life, your journey now moves to moments where women, sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly, pushed against the boundaries. Resistance, rebellion, whispers. Imagine the hushed conversations behind closed doors, the quiet defiance in a defiant glance, or the unexpected strength in a woman's voice rising against injustice. You're sensing the undercurrents of discontent and the surprising ways medieval women found to resist oppression, assert their agency, and even participate in larger social upheavals, often in ways history has quietly overlooked. A mainstream historical fact is that while medieval society was highly hierarchical and patriarchal, women were by no means entirely passive. They participated in peasant revolts, urban riots, and even sometimes took up arms in defense of their homes or communities during sieges. Beyond overt rebellion, there were daily quieter forms of resistance, defying unjust husbands, challenging local authorities, or subverting expectations through their economic independence. Their agency, though often limited by law and custom, was present. You might hear the murmur of discontent in a marketplace, or the determined footsteps of a woman walking away from an impossible situation. A quirky tidbit that illustrates their fierce protectiveness during sieges: women in castles or towns were known to participate actively in the defense, throwing stones, pouring boiling water or pitch onto attackers from battlements, and even tending to the wounded. Imagine a noblewoman, perhaps, with her elegant gown tucked up bravely, helping to defend her home, her usual administrative duties set aside for fierce, desperate action. Historians still argue whether women's participation in revolts and acts of resistance was a spontaneous response to extreme hardship, or reflected a deeper latent awareness of their collective power and desire for social change. Was it reactive or revolutionary? Consider the sheer ingenuity required for quieter forms of resistance. If legal recourse was limited, remember those femme covert laws. A woman might employ cunning persuasion or passive aggression to achieve her ends. A peasant woman might cleverly hide a portion of the harvest from a greedy lord or feign illness to avoid oppressive labor. A wife might manage her household finances in a way that subtly undermines her husband's profligacy, or use social networks to spread information that challenged local power structures. It's like playing a strategic game of chess, but where your opponent has all the obvious pieces and you have to rely on subtle maneuvers and unexpected tactics. Women also found ways to resist through spiritual means. Accusations of witchcraft, while terrifying, can sometimes be reinterpreted as a twisted form of societal pushback against women who dared to be different or exert influence outside sanctioned norms. More positively, visionary women and mystics could challenge ecclesiastical authority through their direct connection to God, creating a space for female spiritual authority that sometimes bypassed male hierarchies. So as you feel the quiet tension of defiance and the subtle tremors of change, let the diverse forms of resistance, rebellion, whispers wash over you. Medieval women, despite overwhelming odds, found numerous ways to assert their will, challenge injustice, and contribute to the ongoing, often hidden struggles for power and autonomy in their world. And now, as you settle deeper into your rest, appreciate the timeless spirit of resilience and the courage to push back even against the strongest currents. Having witnessed the whispers of resistance and the diverse lives of medieval women, you now reflect on their enduring impact, considering their legacy-shifting perspectives. Imagine looking back through a long, misty corridor of time, seeing the countless, often anonymous faces of women who lived, worked, and shaped their world. You're sensing how their collective experiences, their daily contributions, their quiet strengths, and their moments of defiance all wove together to form an indispensable part of the societal fabric, shaping not just their own era, but leaving an indelible mark on the centuries that followed. A mainstream historical fact is that while women's history was long marginalized in traditional historical narratives, modern scholarship has increasingly recognized and illuminated the crucial, multifaceted roles women played in medieval society. Historians now delve into household accounts, legal documents, wills, and even archaeological findings to reconstruct their lives, moving beyond simplistic portrayals to reveal their agency and contributions as workers, mothers, administrators, artists, and spiritual leaders. This ongoing re-evaluation offers a richer, more accurate picture of the past. A quirky tidbit that reveals the continuity of their impact. Many of the basic household management techniques and traditional crafts practiced by medieval women, from bread baking to herbal remedies, continued to be fundamental skills for centuries long after the medieval period ended, often forming the bedrock of everyday life right up until the Industrial Revolution. Imagine a skill like spinning wool passed down from mother to daughter across hundreds of years, a living legacy that quietly shaped economies and families. Historians still argue whether the focus on individual, exceptional women in medieval history overshadows the more common, yet equally significant experiences of the vast majority of ordinary women, or if these remarkable figures provide essential windows into broader societal possibilities. Was it about the few or the many? Consider how their daily grind, their field labor, their bustling trades, their estate management, their convent lives, their navigation of legal limits, their perilous experiences of childbirth, their arranged marriages, their uneven education, their healing hands, their deep faith, their artistic expressions, and even their moments of resistance all contributed to the tapestry of medieval life. Without their ceaseless work, their communities would have collapsed. Without their resilience, families would not have survived. Without their quiet creativity, much of the beauty of the age would not exist. Their legacy is not just in grand pronouncements or heroic battles, but in the enduring structure of family, community, and economy itself. Their experiences also offer insights into the subtle evolution of gender roles and societal expectations over time. While the medieval period often appears rigidly hierarchical, the nuances of women's lives reveal a more complex reality, with pockets of autonomy, influence, and even rebellion that challenge simplistic notions. The seeds of later movements for women's rights and recognition can in a very subtle way be traced back to the quiet acts of endurance and ingenuity demonstrated by their medieval predecessors. So, as the distant echoes of medieval life begin to softly fade, let the profound and enduring legacy-shifting perspectives of medieval women wash over you. Their lives, though often constrained, were filled with purpose, skill, and an undeniable impact that continues to shape our understanding of history. Their stories, once largely untold, now whisper to us through the ages, reminding us of the strength and adaptability of the human spirit. Now let your mind gently detach from the images and sounds of the medieval world. The grand estates, the bustling markets, the quiet convents, the fields under the sun. They all soften, becoming less distinct. Feel the peaceful sensation of weightlessness as your thoughts drift, carried by the gentle hum of the fan or simply the quiet of your room. There's nothing more to learn tonight. No more facts to absorb, just the calming, rhythmic flow of breath. Allow any lingering thoughts or worries to dissolve like mist at dawn. You are safe. You are comfortable. The world outside is quiet, and so is your mind. Just float suspended in perfect tranquility as you sink deeper into a calm, restorative sleep.